Across K-12 classrooms, educators are facing an escalating baseline of disruption, students demonstrating recurrent aggression, active property destruction, and serious, repeated rule violations. Standard exclusionary discipline, detentions, suspensions, and expulsions, was designed to correct minor infractions. When applied to extreme, escalating behaviors, that disciplinary framework simply breaks down. Operationally, schools frequently miscategorize these severe escalations. Administrators often write them off as extreme cases of oppositional defiant disorder, or ODD. Labeling these behaviors as moral or disciplinary failures ignores the underlying diagnostic reality. These actions identify a specific, highly regulated clinical condition, conduct disorder. If we look at ODD and conduct disorder side by side, we have to pull them apart to see the distinct diagnostic criteria. Conduct disorder is defined by a persistent pattern of behavior that actively violates the rights of others or major societal norms. The first indicator is physical aggression directed toward people or animals. This is closely followed by the deliberate destruction of property, chronic deceitfulness, and severe rule violations. These behaviors are driven by complex interwoven root causes, strong genetic predispositions, high-stress environments, and underlying trauma. Because conduct disorder is structurally rooted in biology and environment, standard punitive measures will inevitably fail. Managing it requires targeted, medical-grade clinical intervention. Catching and treating conduct disorder early is an absolute necessity. Without immediate intervention, these students risk permanent alienation from the educational system and long-term systemic fallout. Addressing these behaviors requires evidence-based, family-engaged therapies delivered exclusively by licensed clinicians. To actually alter these deeply ingrained behavioral patterns, practitioners rely on an interlocking clinical system. The first component is Multisystemic Therapy, or MST. This addresses the overlapping environments, home, school, and neighborhood, that drive the student's behavior. The second is Functional Family Therapy, focusing heavily on improving family dynamics and communication strategies. Next is Parent Management Training, which equips parents and guardians with specific tactical skills to manage and de-escalate severe disruptions at home. The foundational element is Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, or CBT, which helps the student directly identify and rewire their own destructive thought patterns. Together, these form a complete therapeutic mechanism. These four modalities require highly specialized expertise. They cannot be assigned to standard school counselors or administrative staff. But acquiring and retaining a dedicated roster of licensed clinical therapists is not natively scalable within a standard K-12 district budget. Without a different structural approach, schools simply lack the physical capacity to deploy the interventions required to keep these at-risk students safely in the classroom. This is exactly why MentalSpace School was developed. It provides dedicated mental health infrastructure designed specifically for Georgia school districts. Instead of the traditional model, referring a student out to an off-site clinic and waiting weeks for an appointment, MentalSpace provides same-day teletherapy. When a school identifies a crisis or a specific clinical need, the system triggers a secure bridge directly to same-day teletherapy. This speed is possible because MentalSpace assigns dedicated therapist teams directly to individual schools. Crucially, these licensed clinicians are diverse and culturally competent, allowing them to effectively engage and build trust with the specific student populations they serve. The system architecture is built to handle high-stakes threats immediately, integrating stringent crisis intervention protocols alongside active suicide and violence prevention. It also expands outward to support the entire school ecosystem, providing dedicated wellness programs for school staff and integrated counseling for the students' families. Having immediate access to this clinical network directly reduces a district's reliance on exclusionary tactics like automatic suspensions and expulsions. By installing the MentalSpace architecture, a school shifts its entire operational posture. It moves away from delayed punitive reactions and toward immediate clinical de-escalation. For school boards, the primary roadblock to building comprehensive mental health infrastructure is always the funding pipeline. The MentalSpace framework routes around this by leveraging existing insurance pipelines, meaning care is delivered at zero direct cost to the district. For Medicaid-eligible students, the out-of-pocket cost is $0. To cover the broader student body, the system integrates fully with major commercial networks, including Blue Cross Blue Shield, Cigna, Aetna, United Healthcare, and Humana. It also supports state-specific managed care organizations like Peach State, CareSource, and Amerigroup. Beyond financial viability, school-based healthcare demands rigorous adherence to legal and data privacy standards. The entire MentalSpace teletherapy bridge maintains strict native compliance with both federal HIPAA and FERPA regulations. This is critical because Georgia districts are currently facing mounting pressure from an impending state legislative mandate, House Bill 268. Schools have a hard deadline of July 2026 to ensure their mental health and safety protocols meet these exact compliance standards. Deploying this integrated teletherapy architecture solves two massive operational problems simultaneously. It completely removes the financial bottleneck and immediately neutralizes the district's impending legal compliance risk. When we look past the operational mechanics, we have to measure how this infrastructure actually impacts the student body. This dashboard tracks the empirical data generated by implementing precise, school-based clinical care. First, regarding student presence in the classroom, schools utilizing this system report an 89% improvement in overall attendance. Second, measuring clinical stability, we see a 92%. An integrated, clinically supported district keeps students engaged and actively learning, replacing the outdated model of chronic suspensions and dropouts. District administrators and clinical coordinators must evaluate their current infrastructure today. Are your systems robust enough to meet the July 2026 HB 268 mandate? To initiate this infrastructure upgrade, you can evaluate the platform at mentalspaceschool.com or reach out directly to mentalspaceschool@chctherapy.com. Partner with MentalSpace School now to build a specialized teletherapy network before the next behavioral crisis occurs in your district. Modern K-12 education relies on this proactive architecture to meet clinical needs with clinical solutions, maintaining the environment required for students to remain in the classroom.